morning. Welcome everybody. Hi. Okay. Yeah. Right. Welcome to the Provocateurs. Give me a cheer, but also if you could please put your hands up if you've ever been to one of our shows before. Repeat customs working, marketing's working. Wonderful stuff. So give me a cheer if you are new to the Provocateurs. Hey! Fresh blood. We love that. Especially in science. Put it in vials, spin it around. Then you're in for a wonderful Sunday morning treat. Now, we are the Provocateurs. You may have heard of Cabaret of Dangerous Ideas. That was our old name, because not all of our ideas are dangerous, but they're all provocative. And what we like to do here is we like to take academics from around Scotland out of the university setting, which, as you can appreciate, is incredibly difficult to do, and put them in front of people. And then we say, tell us about your ideas to the people, but you have to do it in such a way that the people can understand. Okay? That's challenge number 2. But what we then did is we selected only the best people, that's you, to come and appreciate the knowledge that we're about to lay down on you. Sound fun?
Yep.
I think it sounds great. Now, I'm here just to facilitate and help these speeches in any way, the talks in any way that they need my help, and ask you a few questions. That's the other thing. So I've already asked who's been to a show before. Can I just find out quickly, who does not normally live in Edinburgh? Travelers from lands afar. Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Just quick question. Just shout out where you're from. Just shout out where you come from.
London.
Aberdeen.
West Berkshire.
Manchester.
Wow, okay. Ohio, Phoenix, Arizona. I think we have a winner for furthest.
South Africa.
No, South Africa. There it is, South Africa. That's coming right at the last minute and stolen everything with their flat nose. Phoenix, Arizona. I'm so sorry. South Africa for the win. Wonderful. Well, it's lovely to have you. Well, listen. I want to give our lovely speakers as much time as possible. So my one rule is when I say 1, 2, 3, you go batshit crazy like it's Daniel Sloss walking on stage or something, because they are the real superstars, okay, of what we're doing. This first one, the title, very close to my heart. Hang on. No, I read it before. Organized Chaos, which is just like I should have it tattooed on my forehead, or you know what I mean? Like that is me all over. Organized Chaos. So, on the count of 3, show all the love. 1, 2, 3!
Hello. Good morning. My name is Pankaj, and I'm a professor in the School of Engineering at the University of Edinburgh. My background is civil and earthquake engineering, designing structures, buildings, dams, nuclear power plants that can not only stay upright during what they are expected to do, but can also withstand earthquakes. Now, in this area, I have interacted with seismologists and social scientists. My work primarily relies on computer simulations, basically to predict how structures would behave under different kinds of loads. These could be man-made or natural. Now, there is a big shift there. In the past 20 years or so, I've directed my simulation skills at the human skeleton, trying to predict how our bone changes as we age, the best way to optimize fractures, how to treat them, what's the best way for joint replacements, when to intervene if there are bone tumors, how to fix spinal deformities and problems such as this. So my talk here is interdisciplinary research. Some of it have been very fruitful, exciting, leading to breakthroughs. Others have been a waste of time. All of them delightfully chaotic. Okay, let me first talk about my previous incarnation as an earthquake engineer. What is an earthquake engineer? An earthquake engineer designs earthquake resistant structures. I think that's the important thing. A lot of people think it's earthquake proof structures. Earthquake proof structures are impossible to construct or would be extremely expensive. Earthquake resistant design philosophy permits certain amount of damage in case of the largest possible earthquake. The aim is primarily to prevent collapse and loss of life. What is seismology? Seismology is obviously the science of earthquakes, how waves propagate in the earth. It's given us a lot of information about the Earth's interior. Now, is earthquake prediction possible? Answers from you? Okay, yes. Shout out yes. Yes. No? No. Well, okay. What would you need to predict an earthquake? What information? If I were to say I can predict an earthquake, what questions would you ask me?
Where are the plates? Tectonic plates.
No, I mean, where do you expect the earthquake, right? And fairly precise, so you can't say somewhere in the northern hemisphere. So it's got to be Edinburgh, or something relatively close. The second question will be when, right? So when is, you can't suddenly say somewhere in the next 5 years, right? It's got to be relatively close. And then how big? Because small tremors occur all the time. So we're really looking for something big. So earthquake prediction at the moment is not possible, right? Now, what would an earthquake engineer want from a seismologist? Just one thing. Tell us how the ground's going to shake so that we can design stuff that doesn't fall over. Now, this is the provocative bit. The seismologists have utterly failed in this. Any seismologists here? Right? Okay. So they've been busy recording earthquake tremors that don't even rattle teacups. Forget the ones that destroy. So basically their instruments just die in case of a big earthquake. So earthquake engineers needed to come up with a solution themselves. Enter Kyoji Suihoro from Japan and John Freeman in the US, who started a strong motion earthquake program in 1920s. They said basically let's build and install instruments that don't faint if a big earthquake comes. And the first proper strong motion record was from Long Beach, California earthquake in 1933. Right? But earthquakes come in different shapes and sizes. Yeah, can you hold this for me, please? The first one. Can you all see this? Yeah. So this is an acceleration record with time. Now, can someone point out the differences between? So these are 3 different earthquakes. Can you point out the key differences between these? Okay, so some of them are really high, some of them are relatively low. So that means bigger ground shaking here. Anything else? Yeah, the duration is different. So this one is longish, this is longish, this is a relatively shorter one. The frequency, yeah, okay. So that's a signal processing person, I think. Yeah. So you can see that here the crisscrosses are further away. Here they are close by, so there is a difference in frequency content. So how, from a record such as this, can we use something which is essentially useful for design? So what they did, they analyzed characteristics which some of you have already mentioned, frequency, amplitude, duration, and saw how different structures responded to these characteristics. And then there's a gentleman called Maurice Bio. He came up with a concept of what was called a response spectrum. And this is what it looks like. I'm not going to explain this in detail, but you can see that it's a relatively simple graph. So if you want a big earthquake, someone mentioned big amplitude, you just push these lines up. If you want a change in frequency, you move these points left and right, right? So this is adopted right across the world. It's really simple, and again, it came through the efforts of engineers, right? So in my previous incarnation, I was asked to, come up with spectra for very specific major project sites, which I did, create synthetic ground motions, and then design structures, which we did. Now, in all this process, no seismologists were harmed. We just gently ignored them. Right? An interesting example was the construction of a Tehri dam. So it's a dam in India on Bhagirathi River. The seismologists were dead against construction of this dam. They said, don't construct it because an earthquake is very likely. If it arrives, it will destroy the dam and flood the entire region. They said you could expect an earthquake of magnitude 7. And the engineers, I was initially involved with it, said, look here, we can actually construct a dam that can resist that kind of magnitude. Actually, it could be magnitude 8. I said, actually, we can construct a dam to resist magnitude 8 or 8.5. Now you are messing with us. So the dam was ultimately constructed, finished in 2006, and it's said to be able to resist a theoretical magnitude of 8.4. You don't construct dams or things on the basis of magnitude, but so far it's okay. There hasn't been an earthquake, but we never know. My interaction with social scientists, on the other hand, has been very eye-opening. I learned that basically earthquake engineering is not just about strong structures. It's about strong communities, smart policies, and convincing people that earthquakes are far more dangerous and scarier than what Netflix subscription increases, right? So, and you ask a homeowner, look here, retrofit your house for a future quake, will invariably get you a response, oh, we've got our money for more important things, like education of our children, or maybe even a new sofa, right? And governments love emergency response, because once a disaster has happened, they suddenly put in all the resources, it gets them the votes. They snooze when it comes to disaster risk preparedness. And in some of the societies, such as those in South Asia, where I come from, these are fatalistic societies where they believe if it happens, it happens. These societies are the least prepared. Okay, change of topic. Let me now tell you about my interaction with clinicians. So, it all started when one of the surgeons said, revision hip surgery is like building foundations. Let me explain. So, if someone has had a hip surgery, you had an implant for a while and then it fails, it invariably leaves large bone gaps. And what surgeons do, so this is sort of the human pelvis here. There's a cup over here which they put in, and there's a big bone gap, this red stuff, if you can see that, then that's the bone graft they put in. The bone graft is nothing but milled bone impacted into the graft. So basically, you can see, and a femur bone will go in there. So it's essentially foundation engineering with bone, right? With a femur bone, right? Now, traditionally, they used to use large particles of bone, and interestingly, they used to call them croutons. And this is true, yeah. So what we suggested, is, look here, mix these large particles with small particles. Why? Because then you fill up the voids and you get a better compaction. So it's like a jar of footballs, you put in tennis balls and golf balls, and you get, it fills up the void and reduces vigor. And it worked. So this is an elementary piece of civil engineering known as Fuller distribution, which actually worked with bone graft. And this elementary bit was published in a prestigious orthopedic journal, and it sort of changed clinical practice. I mean, it's crazy that a really simple undergraduate stuff of civil engineering can actually have an effect in another area. Our subsequent work on bone graft actually led to clinical trials of synthetic materials which can be mixed with human bone. So over the years, I've worked with surgeons on a range of problems. Some of it is here. So this is, I can pass this on, just return it to me. You won't be able to use it if you. So this is a kind of thing which you get if you need knee replacements. This is for hip. You can see it's actually quite heavy. Let me just, so on optimizing replacements, there is this thing, something for fracture treatments. These are called locking plates. So we worked on these areas, and of course on current problems with prosthetics for amputees and so on. Now the problem with surgeons is that the engineers, as you know, engineers rely on measurements, and surgeons rely on vibes. So you basically say, look here, how do you know that this spinal rod that you're going to put in to correct the spinal deformity has been bent correctly? Answer, experience. Yeah. How do you know that you're putting in a screw in good quality bone? Oh, it's making a nice squeaking sound. How do you know that you have impacted the bone graft correctly? Oh, I just poke it with my finger. If it feels hard, it's good. Now imagine, as a structural engineer, I tap the concrete with my palm. If it feels smooth, then it will hold the bridge. Now, there is obviously, so experience is really key in case of surgery. So the most senior person leads, the consultant cuts, the registrar assesses, and the intern holds the suction. In an engineering design office, it's the other way around. It's the junior most engineer who does the design. The senior guy checks and prays. The hierarchy in both places just flipped. Now, the problem with experience is that many surgeons get fixated on a specific technique or a specific implant. I've used this for so many years and it works. Well, it might work, but maybe it's not the best option. The other issue is that all medical practice relies on clinical trials or experiments, observational studies, right? We've done this with 1,000 people and 70% lived happily ever after. So, computer simulation, which is what I do, is not on their radar. Through computer simulation, we can actually map stresses and strains in the bone, which no experiments can. We can break bones virtually, so you don't have to. Yeah, we can test implants. We can test the same implant in different patients or different implants in the same patient. Essentially, we can conduct clinical trials on a computer, or what's called now being called in silico computer trials. Yeah, but there are impediments. Medical bodies today require all computer simulations to be validated through experiments. Now, what's the point of doing a simulation if you want to do experiment anyway, right? So that is a serious issue here. The other issue is sometimes we modelers shoot ourselves in the foot. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, my team developed one of the most sophisticated models of the human pelvis. So this is the pelvis, and it included all the muscles and ligaments. And this model essentially showed that the stresses in the pelvis are far more uniformly distributed than previously thought. Now, when we actually ignore the muscles, then someone says, what about the muscles? Simple answer or short answer, not needed here. Long answer, still not needed here. Right? The same thing with patient-specific models. So today we can do a CT scan of a patient and then actually create a model which is specific to them. The problem is that this model is specific to that particular patient. It's ethically messy because anything you use for research, you need patient permissions and everything. And then, obviously, it's expensive. You don't go about doing CT scans of everyone. So every time we ignore, we do a generic model or an average model, then somebody will ask, oh, why didn't you do a patient-specific model? Well, we are trying to solve a general problem, not try and develop a bespoke hip for Bob who works in radiology. Yeah, so that's basically the idea. So generic models are useful. Some years ago, we teamed up with a group of medics in Melbourne and biologists in Vancouver. Now, these medics in Melbourne, they had a stash of donated femurs. Of course, these femurs, so they were donated before the guy died. So this biologist went and he did micro CT scans, so very small samples, very detailed scans. We used these scans and we showed, we did computer simulations with this, we showed that why bones become more brittle as we age and they become more directional with age, something you couldn't have done experimentally. And we used this to show how different implants would work in bone of different ages. Again, we use average and generic models, which gave us really good answers. And the interesting bit is that this work on bone microstructure caught the eye of snow scientists who were looking at microstructure of snow, and we ended up collaborating with snow scientists. Yeah, so snow slides, bone breaks, we didn't realize they had anything in common. Okay, let me try and sum up. Historically, all evidence for safety and efficacy of medical products has been produced experimentally, experiments done in the lab or through clinical trials. Lately, the regulatory agencies have started receiving and accepting evidences produced through computer simulations. Computer simulation is actually producing new material, it's producing lots of new knowledge, and I'm optimistic that it will become a dominant tool in diagnosis and treatment. When that happens, then this beautiful chaos of interdisciplinary research will turn into something shocking, like organized teamwork. We might actually start agreeing on things. Thank you very much.
Keep it going for Professor That's amazing. I know we don't actually have time for Q&A, but I think everybody does just want to clarify how one guy donated a stash before he dies.
It was several guys.
Several guys, and hopefully not all before they died. All before they died, they were legless to the end. All right, we'll give it one more time, please. So Rebecca, thank you so much. And also I'm aware that there's a couple of pink props that are